like amazing, so thank you for that. I know 5 people doesn't seem like a lot, but basically I'm just a guy who's learning a bunch of languages, so for me that's a lot. Um, so I like it. What today is August 12th, 2023. I like to give a little bit of an update about my language progress at the beginning of each stream. So yesterday I didn't stream because I finished work at 6 o'clock in the evening, and I was studying languages for about 2.5 hours before I started work yesterday, and I discovered actually that using Closemaster is a lot better on the laptop. I mean, it works perfectly fine on the phone. It's just when you do Duolingo on the laptop and then you do a lesson on Closemaster, they actually kind of reinforce each other and you can see more statistics. And I also discovered something really kind of cool is that they have, Closemaster is open close exercises. So, you have a sentence and you have to try and guess the word that goes in there, and that helps you with understanding how not just words but sentences work in different languages. And, some of the sentences are a little bit odd, but uh they have okay, we're not reading that. They have, what am I trying to say? They have real sentences that you can practice with, taken from Wikipedia, different articles and stuff. Um, and they have like different topics, and you can do uh, one per day if you're free, like I guess something like that. So you can see on my blog, the Leverton Review, you can see that I have just posted before I started. I finally decided which 100 languages to learn, and that's what I was doing this morning. I woke up and I was like, I don't really have much to do. I don't really want to clean because the kids aren't coming over, so I just started doing as many different. I did like most of the things I have on Duolingo, and then I did most of the things I have on Closemaster, and then I was like, because I had the idea of just doing all the lessons on Closemaster, all of the languages on Duolingo and Closemaster, but that doesn't add up to 100. It's like maybe 70 or something. And then I took a look at Memrise, and Memrise is kind of a site with a little bit of a identity crisis because they want you to pay money for their courses, which I understand, but Memrise actually started as an app which you could learn to memorize stuff, which is thus the name. Not just languages, but like things for tests and things like that. So as a part of this app, not app, it's not on the app, sorry. As a part of the website, you could create your own courses, and I used to do that when I was an English teacher for people who were using our books to like try and learn languages, to learn English so that they could practice. So I made some courses. So I discovered a lot of those courses, not just that I made, but like a lot of people have made, are there. So this is really useful for languages that, not many people speak. So I want to focus on learning Romance languages, Germanic languages, and Slavic languages because those are the 3 kinds of languages that I know best. And I want to know like as many as possible. And so I've always been kind of honest that I want to learn 100 languages at a very basic level and 10 at a very high level. So I'm not trying to learn 100 languages all the way, but I'm just trying to get a basic understanding of each language. So here is my new strategy. And this is also, I'm really happy. So I'll tell you about the languages and then I'll tell you about the strategy. So I'm wearing glasses, but that's really small. So here are the languages I have decided to learn. The languages in bold are these 10 languages which I want to focus on. So Spanish is a language I want to focus on. French, yes. And then to learn generally Italian, Portuguese, Latin, Romanian, Catalan, Occitan or Occitan, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's like a, and I'll explain what these languages are actually. Oh, that's good too. So Occitan is like, it's in the south of France and it's kind of between Catalan and Italian. Gallego is a language in the north of Spain, but it's actually more closely related to Portuguese. Piedmontese is a language in Italy. Mirandese is a language in Spain, I want to say. Ladino is a Romance language used by Sephardi Jews. Romansh is actually a Romance language in Switzerland, and it's one of the official languages in Switzerland. Ligurian, I think it's in Italy too, and Logodorese, I don't know where that is. Haitian Creole, obviously, is in Haiti. Haiti? What did I say? Haiti. Russian, Ukrainian, Polish, I want to learn at a high level. Czech, I want to learn at a high level. Because I have two Romance languages, so I have Spanish and French. I could change that, but I was going with languages I've actually tried to learn in the past. So then we have Croatian, Slovakian, Slovenian, Macedonian, Belarusian, Serbian, Rusin, which is a language in the east of Poland, west of Ukraine. Old Church Slavonic, I'm not sure why it hopped out of the box there. Bosnian, Montenegrin, Polabian, which is an extinct Slavic language. Cilician, which is a language spoken in the southwest of Poland. Many people kind of debate whether it's a dialect or a language. I kind of also wanted to do Kashubian, but I can't find any resources. And that's another thing. Like, all of these languages have resources that I can actually learn with. Sorbian, which is a Slavic language in Germany, actually. Very closely related to Polish. English is my native language. German, Scots, Dutch, Afrikaans. And this is something I discovered yesterday when I was learning that, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian are kind of the same language. They're like a dialect continuum. So learning all three actually strengthens your knowledge of all of them. So I'm counting those as one language. And you could do that with Romance languages too, but I think there is a bigger difference between French and Italian, for example, than between Danish or than between Norwegian and Swedish. I assume I'm still broadcasting. I saw something that I wasn't, but anyway, continuing on. Icelandic, Yola, and Yola is I don't really know much about this language, honestly. It's some kind of Germanic language that's closely related to English, and it began in England, but the course I found has it in Ireland somewhere. Yiddish, of course, is Yiddish. If you don't know what Yiddish is, it's basically like the Ashkenazi version of Ladino, but Yiddish is obviously much more famous. Luxembourgish, Franconian, which is sort of, could be dialect of German. Frisian, Norn, which is a kind of Germanic language that was spoken in the Shetland Islands before they were sold to the King of Scotland, actually. That's a whole thing now. Like, the Shetland Islands want to be part of, I think, Norway or something, or independent. They're kind of upset that they were bought so long ago. Gothic, which is an extinct Germanic language. And it's funny because the Goths are obviously the people who sacked Rome. And in that story, I mean, when you, I have been listening to the History of Rome podcast by, forgot his name, but it's a very good podcast. And he does another one called Revolutions, which I'm also listening to. But he was talking about he goes through the history of Rome, and obviously Goths, who were a Germanic tribe, play a great deal in that. And they're kind of presented by the Romans as being a bad guy, but then you look at their language and you're like, oh, they have thorn, which is this letter for the th sound, which, Icelandic has it too, and Old English has it. So, I mean, obviously, the English are related to the people who sacked Rome. So, the English think about Romans as the good guys, like, yeah, the good guys in the story, and the Goths is kind of the bad guys, but the English are probably more closely related to the Goths than they are to the Romans. So, I found that interesting. Korean is a language I want to know, or at a high level, because I've been learning it for a long time. Irish, Scottish Gaelic, Welsh, Breton, Cornish, Manx, Esperanto. Why do I want to learn it at a high level? I just really like the idea of a language, and I thought of the language, and I thought about this today actually when I was practicing, that if you didn't know it was an artificial language, I don't think you could give it to any linguist. Every linguist knows what Esperanto is, but if you could find one linguist who didn't know what Esperanto was, and you told him to look at it, would he be able to, or she be able to tell that it was an artificial language? I'm not so sure. They would look at the rules and they'd be like, oh yeah, really simple grammar. Because it does have grammar, right? And there are grammatical rules that are not intuitive. So it is strange, but they would think, why are there so many weird Germanic words in this language that is basically a Romance language, but without the grammar of a Romance language? It's weird. Yeah, so then Interlingua, and excuse my pronunciation, Mayan Mi Atwenk. These next few are all Algonquin languages. Ojibwe, of course, I want to know it on a high level. Blackfoot, Lenni Lenape, and Lenni Lenape is actually the language of the people where I grew up. Not my family, obviously, because we were white settlers, descended from white settlers, but indigenous people there. They're not originally from there because it's a long story, but the people who were originally from there were they were the victim of what's the name of that? There was some war between the Hurons and the Iroquois that was sort of made worse. I think these were called the Musket Wars, made worse by the French and the English, and the Iroquois basically massacred the people who lived in the place where I grew up, who were called the Neutrals. And then I think they were brought the Lenni Lenape were brought to Canada from Delaware after the American Revolution, if I'm correct. And because they were loyalist and they were given land in Canada as a reward for that. So that's why that's why they have this name Delaware sometimes, but Delaware is the English guy and Lenni Lenape is their name. It's really confusing, actually. Interesting story, because they're Lenni Lenape, and the reservation that maybe I shouldn't say that, because, if you know, then you know, because there's only I think there's only one reservation where they live in Canada, so you could probably figure it out. It's Moraviantown, so, why is it called Moraviantown? It's called Moraviantown because there were these missionaries who were Moravians, who were originally from the Czechia. So, such a crazy, complicated story of human existence. So crazy. All right, and then and all of these languages are related. And I didn't know that Lene Lenape was related to Ojibwe. Honestly, I would have been more interested in it when I was younger, because I had seen a dictionary, and unfortunately, there Ojibwe is for an Aboriginal language, for an indigenous language. There, it's relatively popular, but Lene Lenape, when I was growing up, had like 13 native speakers. So hopefully, it can be revived. Arapaho, Cree, Japanese, Hindi, Mandarin, Arabic, Turkish, Vietnamese, Greek, Hebrew, Indonesian, Finnish, Navajo, Hawaiian, Zulu, Swahili, Hungarian, Farsi, Cantonese, Tokpona, Thai, Estonian, Lithuanian, Amharic, Georgian, Basque, or Uskudi, something like that. It's not named Basque in its native language. Latvian, Albanian, Kazakh, Armenian, Maori, Bengali, Guarani, Azerbaijani, Lojban, and Nahuatl, something like that. So those are the languages I would like to learn. So, how am I going to do this? I'm going to learn the 10 that I mentioned, or 9, plus 1 from Memrise every day. So I will be learning 10 languages every day, and I will finish a Memrise course, and then I will move into like learning the languages, the other languages more thoroughly. Because I think I can learn Italian on a really high level, but you know, I don't need to, but it's interesting. There's a plant in my beer. I'm drinking beer because it's hot. And I put my plants on the windowsill to cool down. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So, let's start with... Actually, no, not let's start with that. No, I did that today. Let's start with language flower. So, in this story, Hannah she works for this old man, and this creepy guy tried to put him out of business because he bought a glass-bottom boat on this island to take tours, which the old man has as well, and then he was pricing his tours really low, so the old man would go bankrupt, but then a hurricane came and destroyed his boat. And the old man's boat is under the bottom of the sea because the evil guy sunk it, and somehow I guess it's going to survive this story. Here we go. Poco a poco el viento se hace cada vez más débil. 2 horas más tarde la gente empiezan a salir de sus casas. Deja de llover. Ahora puedo ir a ver a Max Markler por sus desagradables juegos, dice Hannah. ¿Qué puedes hacer?, dice el señor Duval. ¿Cómo puedes detenerle? No lo sé, dice Hannah, enfadada. Pero puedo hacer algo. Y sale corriendo. They just had a hurricane and she's like, I need revenge. Hannah va a la grande casa de Max Marker. Ve el trabajo del huracán. Parte de su casa ha desaparecido. ¿Dónde está Max Marker?, piensa. ¿Está dentro? Corre hacia la casa, pero tiene miedo. Max Marker está dentro de la casa y no puede salir. Socorro, socorro, dice. Voy a morir. Pero el viento se lleva sus palabras. Hannah puede oír a Max Marker, pero no puede verlo. ¿Dónde estás?, dice. Aquí, dice él. Estoy aquí. De repente ella le ve. Ahora no se ríe, piensa. That's mean. Tiene piedras y parte del tejado encima. tejado is ceiling, right? Roof. Ayúdame, grita. Por favor. Ya voy, le dice ella. Hannah trepa y empieza a quitarle las piedras de encima. No es fácil. Las piedras son muy pesadas. Le quita una luego la siguiente. Más rápido, le dice. Trabaja más rápido. No puedo, grita ella. De repente se oye un ruido por encima de ella. Ana mira hacia arriba. Oh no, se está cayendo parte del tejado. Ayuda, dice Max y empieza a llorar. Hannah salta y el tejado se desploma cerca de ella. Espera 10 segundos y vuelve a ver. Vuelve a trepar por las piedras hasta Max Marker. Él se alegra mucho de verla. ¿Cuánto falta para se caiga toda la casa?, piensa Hannah. ¿Puedo sacarlo rápidamente? Empieza a trabajar más rápido. Max ya puede moverse, pero está muy débil. I'm sorry. I'm always gonna laugh with that word. Se levanta despacio y sale de la casa. Hannah le ayuda a cruzar la calle. Miran hacia atrás. La casa se estrella contra el suelo. Pero Max Marker sonríe. Eres muy valiente, dice. Gracias, amigo mío. No soy tu amigo, dice Hannah. Well, that's true. She wanted him to die. ¿Cómo puedo pagarte?, dice Max. Paga el parco del señor Duval, dice Hannah. Y déjate de juegos sucios. Trabajad juntos con los dos barcos. No os peleéis. Vale, dice Max Marker. ¿Pero qué puedo darte? No quiero nada, dice Hannah. ¿Algo de dinero?, pregunta Max. No, gracias, dice Hannah. El dinero no lo es todo. Sí, empiezo a entenderlo, dice Max. Okay. I thought that was going to take a darker turn, honestly. But I'm glad it didn't. Alright. Bum, bum, bum. So I've done a lot of Duolingo today, but maybe I'll just do one symbolically. If it works. Bum, bum, bum, bum, bum. You know, it's been raining for like 3 weeks, and today is the first real summer day. Yeah, so Yiddish. I was trying my luck with Yiddish today. Alright, I will try the languages that I mentioned, which are going to be my main languages. You didn't give me that earlier. The rules are different on the app, I guess. Oh. Are you not going to work? I mean, I don't mind if it doesn't work. It would be good to stream Duolingo sometimes. Okay. Looks like it's not working. Let me try one more. one more time. Start. You said that already. I'm beginning to think you're not being honest with me, Duo. Of course, the owl is famous and everything, but why is it green? Owls are not generally green. I was practicing on Memrise, of course, and they were saying it was an interesting course actually. It was all like in pictures, and they were using like these cartoons that they created for for different things, and they had like a cartoon of Duolingo with this thing that had nothing to do with Duolingo of the owl. Okay, so it's possible that it won't work in the app because I signed up for like probably like at least 30 courses, and it would be great if I could do them on the app, but I think there's just too many and the app is broken. So I can't even do like the AI sort of thing. Oh, Netflix, what do you want? Okay, weird. So I can't even... Oh, whoa, what happened? What happened? What happened? Something happened. Something happened. Something was about to happen. I guess I could do that one, but I don't. So my idea with Memrise is that I'm going to do like, because there's courses that have like 30 words or something, so I will do like the easiest courses and then finish them, and then just get like a little bit of an understanding about what each language is about, apart from my main 10 ones. Okay, so Duolingo's not working. I did all of the closed master I want to do. I did the language flower, so maybe I'll just play the game.
Pito sicik wias pito sicigan wias pito sicigan
İşkute,
ukata zawe menag ukata
işkute,
ukata
işkute,
uzawe menag
magutay, inine,
ikwe
anang, inine, anang,
magutay
anang, inine, magutay, skotes,
makatewa
iskwagan, pagiwawan, iskwagan, skotes, pagiwawan,
konachi makatewa
iskwagan,
konachi makatewa
wiwakwan,
ujoshkwa
kigu,
ujoshkwa
kanan,
mandamen kigu
wadeshmonowen, wiwakwan, kanan, wadeshmonowen, kanan,
mandamen
nibe,
pakakwan
akekizes,
pakakwan wopshka
ake,
miskwa
nibe,
zawa
pakakwan,
Pakakwan.
Kizes. Ake.
Usawa.
Abaganoj. Amo.
Nashi.
Winandip. Kinebik. Winandip.
Nashi. Makwa. Nashi. Makwa.
Abaganoji.
Bijiki.
Abaganoji.
Makwa. Animosh. Bijiki. Makwa. Animosh.
Oh, I almost made it that time. So I was thinking about how I started to learn Ojibwe, which is I was in university, and I went to university to study English literature, and it's kind of boring. Honestly, it wasn't really something I could see myself doing, but I really liked learning languages. So my first year, I signed up for Latin, French, Spanish, and Greek, I think. And I went to the Greek course and I didn't like it at all. And so I dropped that course because you could drop courses, like there's some time period where you could drop courses and it wasn't a problem. So I dropped that course, and then so I needed another course. So I was looking around and I didn't want to do any like English literature courses. So I'm like, okay, because you had to have like a certain number of credits, and you needed to have like a certain number of credits for your major, but then after you could do what you want. So that's what I did. So I was like, oh, what can I do? And then I saw that there was this Ojibwe Odawa course, and so I signed up, and it was taught by, I think her name was Shirley Johnson, and she basically made the course entirely herself, and it it was taught mostly to Indigenous people, but there were a few non-Indigenous people like me, and I thought that it was a real eye-opener because, growing up in Canada, you kind of know that Indigenous people make up a lot of part of the history of the country, but you don't really know it. So, and I've been seeing a lot of like Maori content on TikTok, and because I was searching for like uh, Ojibwe stuff, there's this guy who does, he's got some book called The Seven Teachings or something. I forgot what his name is. And basically, he does like these little Ojibwe lessons, which is nice. So, I mean, that's obvious, but like the Maori thing is, I never looked for like, even though Maori is on my list now, I never looked for any Maori content. So it just seems to me that even though New Zealand has a very similar history to Canada, I think it's not as dark. Because, like, look at their national team. Their national teams perform the haka before events. So you don't have like it. I mean, obviously it's like a different cultural context and stuff, but you don't have like the national um, hockey team performing a powwow before they play. And I think not that that should happen, and maybe it would be disrespectful if it happened, but there's no. It's like Indigenous culture is something that's not. It's like pushed aside, like, oh, it's not part of Canada, it's not part of Canada. And then when Indigenous issues intrude upon Canadian consciousness, it's like then we think about it. Like, I grew up during this time of Oka, and basically, so Oka was this reservation, and it still is, and Mohawks live there and other Six Nation people. And there was conflict because some developer wanted to develop a golf course, and as far I was like, this is in 1990, so I was like 13, 12, something like that. So I wasn't too aware of what was going on in the world. I mean, I saw it on the news, so maybe my understanding of what happened isn't exactly accurate, but basically it was conflict because a developer wanted to build on land that belonged to the Mohawks, and they didn't like that, and so they had a blockade, and they invited everybody to go into this blockade, and people freaked out. People were like, oh my god, this is like a war, it's a war zone. And it was like one blockade of one place, in the place where they lived. The army was called out. There was like, these pictures you could see of this Mohawk warrior taunting this Canadian soldier. And that pretty much sums what Canadian and Indigenous relationships have been like. Because I think New Zealanders have kind of understood that that New Zealanders are not only living on Maori land, but that they are crucial to the idea of what Aotearoa is. And in Canada, I don't think we have that yet. Or at least when I was growing up. Like, I was born in 1977. There were still residential schools when I was born and a little boy. Like, crazy. So, I hope what happens is that, we regain, people who live there regain that culture. I mean, they have the culture, but I mean that I think it can survive without, like, white Canadians having any interest in it. It doesn't need like white people to come in and save it, but I think it would be fair if the people living on the land actually, took time to understand what they can about the culture. And I think language is a really good way because it's not a closed practice. You can learn a language, you can learn a lot about culture from languages, which is why one of the reasons I like it. So, yeah, anyway, she was a really sweet lady. And, unfortunately, I think maybe she has passed now because that was like 30 years ago, something like that. And yeah, I remember she made us do these little skits? Skits? What do you call it? Skits. I forgot. I don't have to say that word in English very often. Skits. She made us do these little skits in Odawa, and which is a dialect of Ojibwe. And I had like these little like teddy bears and like this plastic rat that somebody gave me, and I forgot what the skit was about, but it would be cool if I still had it. But alas, I don't have it because it was on a VHS tape. Probably my parents threw it out, I would imagine. But yeah, that is my language journey for today. So I guess the thing that I want to leave you with is that there are many different reasons to learn a language, and I think that, people say with AI we won't have to know different languages, but I think, maybe in terms of work and just translating into a language you don't know, that's fine, but I think there's always going to be a place for learning languages because language is one of the most important parts of culture, and culture is very, very important to human beings. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for tuning into the stream. I know I'm not very consistent at the times I stream or the days, but I really appreciate anybody who does watch. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment. Yeah, I'll try and answer as good as I can. So, wish me luck with the 100 languages, and bye.